We ain't done none of that. Alrighty. Let's get it on. Normally, I like to talk football because, as you know, football is supreme when it comes to all sports. They used to talk that baseball crap, but that's before the people back then, they weren't quite as sharp as the people are today. And the people of today realize without question that football is the king sport. And everything else is just something to do until football comes back around. Now that football is in full swing, the question is, will these other sports get a little spotlight? I almost completely forgot about the big fight between Canelo and Crawford that's taking place this week in Las Vegas. Got a lot of questions about that particular fight, primarily because a lot of people think that Canelo has advanced mightily since he lost to Mayweather. And I said before that I had seen a poll where people think that if anybody was to beat Mayweather in their prime, it would be Crawford. Well, if that's the case, in picking this fight, I think that, or I thought that if Crawford, if what they say was true, that he can beat Mayweather in his prime, and Mayweather beat Canelo, then Crawford should have no problem beating Canelo either. One guy lost his mind when I said that. He said the Canelo of today would destroy a Mayweather, primarily because he's bigger and he's more comfortable at fighting at this heavier weight. Well, if you follow Floyd's career, he started out at the smaller weights and he went up 4 or 5 classes. So going up another couple of classes probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference. You have to take a slow approach to it, and if you do it the right way, then you won't lose a whole lot in the process. But before I get into the fight, let's go back and talk football, of course. Jalen Carter, the guy from the Eagles who spit on the Cowboys quarterback, he has been suspended for 1 game following that action and fined a game check, which turned out to be like $57,000. Well, unfortunately for the Cowboys, the insult stops there because the suspension, being that he didn't play a snap against the Cowboys, the league has ruled that the suspension has already been served. Therefore, Carter should be on the field this weekend when the Chiefs take on the Eagles this week. And as you know, that's going to be the Super Bowl rematch. And of course, they would like to have him out there. And both teams seem to be reeling of sorts because the Eagles, they got a lot of glaring holes now. And they ain't that powerful defensive team that they had last year. So far, anyway. Now, they could mold into that. But right now, they're not at that point. In Kansas City, same kind of thing. Now, I think Kansas City's problem, and the last couple of years, it seemed to be the same thing. They always have some receiver problem. Some kid gets suspended for the first 6 games, and it kind of throws their rhythm off. Well, same thing this year. Rashee Rice, I think his name is, he suspended the first 6 games, and then you lose Xavier Worthy on a freak play where 2 of your receivers crash into each other, and now you dislocate your shoulder. Who knows how long he's going to be out? So Kansas City offensive rhythm has been thrown off. But if you're paying attention to what's going on in the league, there are major problems in Miami right now. And guys like Tyreek Hill, he wants to pretty much get out of there because it's just not working with him and Tua anymore. And for whatever reason, the league has figured out a way to slow down the Dolphins. Case in point, there is no absolute way that you would have thought that the Colts, given that their quarterback situation that they have, would have blown Miami out in that first game. It was a complete surprise to me. What I mean by that, well, Anthony Richardson, he's 4th choice in the first round when he was drafted a couple years ago. he lost his job to cast off Daniel Jones from the Giants. So much, it bothered him so much that, he got into his feelings about it, that his agent had to go talk to management to have a discussion about the situation. Evidently, they cleared the air, but I don't see what air there was to clear. I mean, you are the high draft choice. You are at the team that drafted you. All you have to do is go out and play. But he wasn't going out and performing like he should have played, and that opened the door for Daniel Jones. But given the struggles of Richardson, I think when they brought Jones in, they probably promised him that he was going to be the starter from day one. And the surprise was on Richardson. But it should have been a surprise on Richardson. He didn't reach up to the standards he was supposed to reach, so you're subject to anything when you don't perform at the level that you're supposed to be performing. Well, having said all of that, I think that if Tyreek Hill is so disappointed, I think what he needs to do is get on the phone and call Mahomes and tell him to get with the management and go for a trade. Come on back to Kansas City, and that will open up the offense even more for Mahomes, and it will become that much more dangerous. As you know, when he was with the Chiefs, they took a lot of tops off some defenses, and they opened up a lot of holes underneath for Travis Kelce. He went for a money grab, which you can understand, free agency, but recently it hasn't worked out so well. Now, previously, when you had all that speed with the Dolphins, they were a very dangerous team. But for whatever reason, everybody seemed to have caught up to it. And if they get blown out again or beat this weekend or don't look so good, then expect for a change coming in Miami. And if that change does come, they might just clean house, which means that Tyreek Hill might be on the market sooner than what he might have expected. How you doing, Navoya Brown? Glad you stopped in and hollered at me. But that's Sunday. Before that, you got the big fight again on Saturday night with Canelo taking on Crawford. Now, the big storyline here is Canelo has been fighting at this weight for a while now. He's fine. He's comfy fighting at this weight. It's probably his best weight. Crawford, he's only fought to 154 pounds. So the question is, can Crawford get to 168 and still have his sharpness and quickness to take on Canelo? A lot of people don't think that he can do it. But what the words coming out of Crawford's camp is that he is taken to the change much better than they even thought. Now, of course, the management on his side is going to say that. They're not going to tell you what they really think. But if they're telling the truth, then I think that this shouldn't be much of a problem for Crawford. But like I say, a lot of people think that if he fought Mayweather and they both were in their primes, this all speculation, that they would see Crawford as taking down Mayweather. I can't say I believe that. Mayweather had some subpar performances that make you think that, well, he could be beat if he was matched up with somebody on his level. I think Crawford wouldn't take a back seat to him, but I just don't see anybody beating him. Not from the list of the names that I saw. How you doing, JC? We're talking a little bit boxing today. I think that if this fight, if Crawford is able to adjust to this 168 and he's able to remain quick, then I think it's going to be the same kind of fight that Mayweather had against Canelo. He's just going to outclass him. And, it's almost like great fighters have the same DNA. They automatically have the right game plan to fight against anybody. And I'm not talking about just boxers. If you look at guys that had a lot of fights on the streets, they always seem to know the right way to attack whoever it is that they're fighting. And I don't know if they just going for it and it just appears that way, but they always seem to know the right approach to fight somebody, and they always seem to adjust on the fly. So that's just the mark of great fighters. Pay attention to that as you watch these boxing matches, and if you catch street matches and you know somebody that's always getting into fight, pay attention to see how much they adjust to what's going on in the situation. And I think because of that, I think Crawford, he's got that mean streak. He's I think he's just a little bit more nastier than Canelo. And because of that, I think that he should be able to handle Canelo if the weight doesn't become a problem. But if he's having any kind of a problem and the fight goes into the later rounds, then that tends to favor Canelo. But I think it'd be interesting to see how this fight goes. Be pretty interesting. And I think I'll keep an eye on that one myself. But back to football, I don't know if I'm happy about this Jalen Carter thing. I thought he would get 2 games suspension. And what the league could have done, instead of just taking the game he sat out anyway, I would throw another game on top of that to let him know that that was a very serious thing he did. But what a lot of people don't know is that he got caught. And in other words, a lot of people do that kind of stuff. And when they fighting under the power for those balls and when loose balls, and they grabbing and pulling on things and choking each other, and it's just outright carnage that takes place underneath those piles. So if you think that spitting is uncommon, then you got another thing coming. But he made it obvious that they had to do something about it. If he was under the pile or something like that, then you never would have known about it and been going on his business as usual. But I think the reason why he only got the 1 game suspension is because they got that Super Bowl rematch that's taking place on Sunday against the Chiefs. And I think the league wants him out there. I don't know. I don't think it's a flex game, but given the way that they already set the schedule up, it's probably going to be the night game. As you know, last week was a great night game. You had the Ravens and the Bills, and a lot of people are scratching their head about the Ravens. Under Harbaugh, they've blown a lot of double-digit leads, and this one was late that they blew. And they are questioning whether the Ravens fans are questioning whether Harbaugh needs to step aside. Well, it's no different than what they say about Mike Tomlin. Anytime you've been in a place too long, then they're going to look at you as saying that you're getting stale and your message, just doesn't hit the same way it used to. There may be some truth to that. Everybody's going to say anything when things don't go right. But I think that it still boils down to the players. There are opportunities there for the Ravens to convert. The quarterback, he's got to scan the defense and find the person to throw to. I think what he did, when he went over there to talk to Hopkins on that 3rd down that they needed to convert to seal the game, everybody in the world knew he was probably going to throw that ball to Hopkins. But if he had scanned the defense to the left side, he had a tight end that was wide open, and that would have sealed the game. All right, Mulatto Master, how you doing? Good day, sir. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm just talking about what I see. But I think that Jackson, he's getting better as a passer. He threw some good passes. That pass he threw to Hopkins for the touchdown, slightly overthrown, but might not have been overthrown because if you look at the play, Hopkins actually slowed down a little bit, pushed off with that left hand, and then made the one-handed grab. So he already knew what he was going to try to do when he did that. But it was a great throw. And Jackson is improving, you can see that. But what he's got to improve on now, he's got to make sure he's going to the right read all the time. Now, it's kind of strange to say that because, like these announcers, they're always saying things like how this guy's progressing and how he's mastered this and toppled that. Well, case in point, 2 years ago, they played Houston in the divisional, and the announcer was saying how Jackson was reading the defense, and if he reads 1, 2, 3 and it's not there, he's going to take off. He's got it down to a science. But then in the game against Kansas City in the championship game, he did the polar opposite. So even if the announcer was right, he just proved that Jackson is an inconsistent ball player. Just like some guy with a gun or a marksman or a shooter in the Army or something. He can't hit the target but 22 out of 40, but you don't know when he's going to hit that damn target. So you don't want to be the one he's shooting at, because if you look bad enough, you just might get shot. And Jackson is on the same kind of thing. he can throw, and it's a hit and miss a lot of times. And he's not consistent most of the time is what I'm trying to say. But the actual throwing of the ball, he's gotten better at that. But he's got to make the right decision at the right time. And once he gets that down, then the Ravens are going to be that much more of an improved team. But the so-called defense that they put together, that's supposed to be the tops in the league, with this secondary full of number one draft choices, it didn't look so good the other night. What do I think about Minnesota? I think McCarthy can take them to the playoffs. I think McCarthy turned the corner the other night. I didn't think McCarthy was a pro quarterback, to be honest with you. I saw the kind of offense they ran at Michigan, and he just didn't strike me as somebody that can lead a pro offense. And then when he came out in the first 2.5 quarters against the Bears, it certainly looked like it proved my thoughts right. But for whatever reason, he got hot at the right time. Collapse in conjunction with the collapse of the Bears defense, and just like the Ravens, they blew a lead. So you can get hot at any time, but the question is, can you transfer this to the next game? We don't know enough about McCarthy to know if he's going to be able to do it or not. The league is week to week. Sam Darnold, he struggled, but last year he put it together. But in the playoffs, he went back to being old Sam Darnold. So which McCarthy are you going to see? Are you going to see the one from the first 3 quarters of the game or the one from the fourth quarter? Jefferson certainly needs to see the one from the fourth quarter if he's going to have a great year. But he was under duress a lot of times, especially coming out of halftime. He beat on him about 3 or 4 times. And even, he just didn't look too good trying to escape that rush. And I think if they can protect him a little better, then he'll be a better quarterback. So I don't know if, hey, hell know about what? Hanson, glad to see you again. Are you talking about McCarthy? Can he be a good quarterback? He's got potential. I didn't think he can do it coming out of Michigan because he just didn't look like a pro quarterback to me, especially running the kind of offense that they did. But once you get out there, it just becomes football again. And if you got the mental game down, game plan down, and you know the right calls to make, and you don't get confused out there in the moment, then it comes down to playing football. And he's a football player, so we give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, I figure you were talking about McCarthy. I think the jury is still out on him, and we like to see how he does. Let's ask this question 5-6 weeks from now, because I don't think he's really a pro-type quarterback. But if he continues to get better, they got rid of Sam Darnold, who had that great year last year, in favor of this guy. But I think what happened was they drafted McCarthy to try to be a quarterback to take over sometime in the middle of the year, with Darnold to be the glue to keep them together until he took over. But they weren't expecting Darnold to have the kind of year he had. So now you got a problem. You got all this big money quarterbacks on your roster, and you got to make a move. And he decided to go with the younger fella and gambled on that. So far, it's paid off for him, but it didn't look so good for those first 3 quarters. So we'll see how it goes. All right, I'm excited about tomorrow's game. That is the Packers and the Commanders. I still call them the Redskins, but that's another story. I think that I like to see how Michael Parsons gets off on Daniels. He's chased him around last year with the Cowboys, but as you know, that the Commanders probably a little bit slicker than what the Cowboys were. So you already know what style of play Daniels is going to have. He's got the arm to kill you, and he's got the run to go with that. So that should be a pretty good matchup because Green Bay's got a pretty good defense, and when you add Parsons to the mix, it can be pretty interesting real quick. I don't know who I'm going to go with that. I think Green Bay was already a decent team, and they didn't really lose a lot coming back from last year, and then you add Parsons to the mix. I think at this point,
teachers, please come check your mailboxes.
I think that at this point that Green Bay is a little bit ahead of Washington, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of game plan Washington puts together to counteract that. Now, I don't think McLaurin had that great of a game the other day, but he has to contribute more to help the Commanders' cause. But I did notice that the Commanders did play some pretty good defense against the Giants. Now, that was the Giants now, and Russell Wilson, he didn't look so good. And if he keeps looking like that, we're going to start seeing Jackson Dart pretty soon. And a lot of people in New York are looking forward to that. But sometimes you get what you ask for. You might look good in preseason, but that don't mean you're going to look good in the regular season. And but yeah, Hanson, that should be a pretty good game. Are you still calling them the Redskins too? Well, you know, it's an image control thing. It just so happened that that particular tribe, that maroonish color that you see on their face, that is a berry that they rub on, and it was a going into a war ritual, and that is not an insult to that particular tribe. So a lot of people have issues with, you know, with the name and all of that, but again, the tribe that came from, they consider that an honor. And then if you look across the landscape, most tribes, they don't have a problem with the Redskin name. So it all depends on who you talk to. But if you've been 50 years and you knew the Redskins for 50 years, then that's what you still consider them. And it's not just me. If you take, what's the guy named Pat? We used to broadcast with John Madden. Pat, right from Florida, Lake City up here. I can't call his name right now, but he used to call the Colts. He was calling the Colts game one time. This was in the 90s. And he said, first down, Baltimore. Well, hell, they've been in Indianapolis for like 10 years. So he had made a slip to call them Baltimore instead of Indianapolis. But he played in the league. He knew the Baltimore Colts, and he broadcasted for all the time. They were the Baltimore Colts. Now, in defense of the Indy Colts, they have now been in Indianapolis longer than they were in Baltimore. And if you don't know the history of that team, they actually came from Dallas. They were the Dallas Texans, the first Texans team. The Dallas Texans, they changed the name when they moved to Baltimore and became the Colts. The second Dallas Texans changed their name and moved to Kansas City and became the Chiefs. So if you know your history, you know that the Houston Texans, this is the third team called the Texans. The first two were in Dallas, one became the Colts, the next one became the Chiefs, and now you have the Houston Texans. So just a little bit of history there for you. But I think that Redskins' name is always going to be with most people, and there's been a push by some to have the name changed back, but the recent owners, the recent ownership change in Washington said they're not going to go back to that name. But they're talking about going back and building a new stadium on the footprint of RFK, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they did go back to that name. So that'd be something to keep an eye on. But anyway, I just want to come on and talk today a little bit about boxing, change it up a little bit. Most of you saying that Crawford will be able to stay sharp at 168. I think he's going to be able to stay sharp at 168. He's a tough guy. He's fought bigger guys in the streets, so this won't be that much of a jump for him, I don't think. And I think as the rounds go on, it does favor Canelo a little bit. But I think that Crawford is going to be just a little bit sharper and quicker for Canelo, and I think he should be able to edge him out. But you know, those Mexican boxers are tough. And I never seen Crawford get caught by anything. I like to see how he responds if he gets caught. But it should be a great fight. And I don't anticipate any knockouts. But in boxing, anybody can get knocked out at any time, so don't blink. But it should be a great fight. And according to Crawford's camp, he's taking his weight change better than what they can ever imagine. So that's a bad sign for Canelo and his camp. And the closer we get to fight time, the more intense these guys start to lock in, and it's going to be great. But unfortunately for them, this fight is taking place in the middle of football, man. Everybody's focused on football, and this fight is just an afterthought. But anyway, it doesn't diminish it because there's a lot on the line for both fighters as far as the historical context, and it'll be something great to watch, especially as an diversion from football all the time. So anyway, that's just my take on that. Just one other take, 75% of you think that he would be sharp, and I agree. But anyway, there's some breaking news. I'll be back on tomorrow morning about 6:30. I'm starting to get into more of a rhythm here. Beginning of the school year is kind of rough. Trying to get adjusted to the new change, but that's the way it goes. But anyway, like I said, I appreciate you joining. I hope you like and subscribe. And my Fango Media video should be out today. I don't know what's taking so long. If you know Fango Media, they talk to fans like you guys when you come out of the stadium to get your feelings about what you just saw from the game you just watched. And I just happen to be the representative down here in Jacksonville. So if you go to Fango Media, my video should be up sometime today. But if you want to go back and look at all the ones from last year, where we had representatives at each home game all throughout the year. Not so this year. It's a reduced roster, but the same concept with a little bit different approach to the videos. I think you'll like it. So check out Fango Media, and my video should be there, and definitely all the old videos are on there. And another thing that they have when you go on there is a list of shorts based on the videos that we made, and some of them are pretty good. So check Fango Media out, and when I get that video, I'll put the link in the chat, which should be the next time I come on, and then we can talk about football, especially the new direction of the Jaguars. Seem to be improving a little bit, but how long is the question? We'll see. But anyway, have a great day. This has been Sports for Real. I catch you guys on the flip side, and more likely it's going to be in the morning. Until then, have a great day. Also, go back and look at them Steelers, man. I told you, Aaron Rodgers is not done yet.